I never really thought about college until my best friend in high school, his name is Marquise, he introduced me to Howard University. I didn't know what HBC was. I genuinely had no knowledge on college. And then he brought it up to me. He told me just apply with him. God's going to have a plan for you. And things that are put in front of you may not be for the next person, but that's why it's in front of you.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to 2 Decades Deep. This is a podcast about our 20-somethings. I'm your host, Taylor Howard, and I have two special guests with me, Howard students, but U of I is still the best, okay? We have Taraya here. She is a student body vice president, and then we also have Trayvon. He is a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
I was going to bark, but I didn't want to be too loud. I was going to do it, but I stopped it. I was going to do it.
What a way to start.
I was going to do it.
And he is the president of the NPHC.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm so excited for you all to be here today. I think you all have wonderful leadership experience. You are very prominent in your communities, but you also have a thing or two to say about the college experience, especially at Howard University. So before we dive into everything, I'm going to have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I am Taraya Highland. I am a senior at Howard, which is crazy to say. I don't know how I've gotten to senior year this fast, but I also serve as the executive vice president of the student body. But at my core, I'm just a woman of faith that loves to serve the people that I'm around.
That's a good answer.
That is a good answer.
Thanks.
Top that.
But yeah, Trayvon Monlin. I'm from New Jersey. Not really much to me. I'm just a cool guy. I mean, I've done a lot, which I'm very thankful for. I'm very I'm very appreciative of how far I came. First generation, shout out my mom, I love you. But, there's not really much to say. We'll continue when we get into it.
Yeah, we'll definitely go into it. And you all are both seniors, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I definitely understand. As someone who graduated, time really flies. And so
Crazy.
Just to open it up, I want you all both to answer what has been your favorite part about college?
Yeah, I would definitely say just the process of discovering myself. The person that I started out my freshman year as is definitely not who I am now. And I think it's just been a beautiful part of my college experience, is just seeing myself change and evolve over time. I'm a homebody at my core, so I don't have the typical party experience of undergrad, but just learning myself has just been a beautiful, beautiful journey. So yeah, that's my favorite experience so far.
And we're going to discuss all about that, but I want you to also answer your favorite part about college.
To be literal, my favorite part literally was seeing my best friend Greg. He went Mr. Howard.
Yeah.
One of the first people I met on campus, not even my freshman year, my friend group, we met before freshman year, once we all got accepted during that time, that's when we kind of made a group chat. If I go to Howard, you know how that goes, the whole group chat and everything. But and we just been friends ever since. But seeing him with Mr. Howard, I remember him telling us this is what I want to do. And we was all right, we got you all the way, whatever. Yeah. And he actually won. So it was that's one of my favorite parts. Seeing someone put their mind to it and actually doing it, one of my favorite memories.
I love that your favorite memory had to do with someone else's accomplishment. And for those who are unfamiliar, that don't go to HBCUs or are not in college yet, what is Mr. Howard, or what does that entail?
Well, Mr. Howard, it's kind of it's in his name. You're the face of the school. You embody the men on campus, the men before you on campus, and he's a part of his own organizations, so he also holds status for that. The same thing for Mrs. Howard. So it's you get voted on by the school. You got a campaign, of course, campaign season. I'm pretty sure you've seen about that. You get voted on, and I guess it's the person who the school feels embodies them the most and the best and holds it up to the standards that Howard is held up to.
So we understand, before we go to college, we don't know who we are. We're 17, 18 years old.
Yes.
It's insane.
So it's insane.
Yeah.
And then who you become and we're always still becoming, right? But who we are, like once we graduate, is a completely different person. So let's talk a little bit more. Let's take our minds back to high school going into college. Can you talk a little bit about your transitional phases and how you ultimately got to Howard?
Want me to go first?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so high school, let's go back before I get to high school. So I'm from New York, and then I grew up in New York, Staten Island, up until I would say 6th grade. And then I moved to New Jersey, started going to school in New Jersey, and I ran into this program called NJ Seeds. So in middle school, I was kind of like excel. So I've always been good at math. I've been taking like advanced classes. So I got invited to this program, but I didn't want to do it. I didn't tell my mom until the last day. We went to parent-teacher conference. My math teacher told her. My mom made me apply. And so I joined that program when I was in 7th grade. And what it was, essentially, you just take extra classes. And you do SAT prep, stuff like that. And then that ended up giving me a full ride to a private high school in New York. So I went to a boarding school in New York. And yeah, I'll stop right there for right now. But I didn't want to leave. It took me a while to actually accept going away from high school, just because like I was leaving where I'm from, and I was the only one. I remember when I got accepted, they hung up my name and pictures all across the halls, and I didn't like the attention because it was like nobody else was there. So I felt like, not that I didn't deserve it, but it was just like, I'm just like y'all. Like I'm not anything different than the next person, but I don't know, it kind of came off that way, but we'll get into that after Taraya answers.
Yeah. Well, before Taraya answers.
I mean, we could get into it now.
Before Taraya answers, so I would love to know how you found Howard. And what's an interesting perspective is you moved away from home in high school, so you didn't have this super transitional phase to come to DC. So can you just talk a little bit about that and how you decided ultimately Howard was the place for you?
Yeah, so as I said before, I'm first generation. So college was never like in my like 5-year. Like if you ask me where I want to be in high school, like I'm not gonna say I couldn't tell you, because back then I was probably saying this, I want to do this, I want to play basketball, but I never really thought about college until my best friend in high school, his name is Marquise, he introduced me to Howard University. That was his like dream school. Now my cousin graduated from Howard. He went there he's a year older than me, so he just graduated last year. But he joined during COVID, so there wasn't really like much that I could see about Howard. It wasn't really, I just knew he went there. I didn't know what the HBC was. I genuinely had no knowledge on college. And then he brought it up to me. He told me just apply with him. So I'm like, okay. I applied. Unfortunately, he didn't get in, and I did. And that ties back to how I felt in middle school when I got accepted to the high school, because it was just like, I didn't even want this. But he didn't get it, and I did. But throughout that, you just had to learn that there's a path for everybody. God's going to have a plan for you. And things that are put in front of you may not be for the next person, but that's why it's in front of you.
That's a word and that's a bar. And we're going to touch on that a little later in the conversation. But I want to get a little bit into your track, your journey, and how you found Howard.
Yeah. So I am from the best state, the first state, Wilmington, Delaware. Well, Delaware. Wilmington in Delaware, greatest state. I don't know if you ask me. But so I'm from a very small city in Wilmington. It's categorized as like a very urban city, the hood. And I grew up like in the hood, very like urban environment. And I was always, my family, like they joke that I'm like the white girl of the family. I was always like the eyeball out because of just how we were brought up. But they always knew like, oh, like you're gonna be something and something different that our family needs. And so what my mom did was she always like choiced me outside of my school district. She's like, I don't want you going to these schools, so let me take you outside of your school district. But what she didn't realize was like how isolating that experience was. Similar to Travis, like seeing my cousins have a certain experience and I'm like going and getting an entirely different experience. And so that was just a very isolating thing for me and then to go into these schools and then be the only black girl in the classes that I'm in. And so that was just like, I'm not even feeling this. And so fast forward to middle school, I'm experiencing so much racism, being like called out of my name multiple occasions, and like just getting into a lot of like crazy interactions. And this was like during the time that Hillary Clinton and Trump were running against each other. So it was just a very heightened and intense time in like my middle school. And then I go to high school and same thing, same cycle all over again. But this time I started to like really get upset by like what I was experiencing. I was like, I'm done. And so I started to like really push in advocacy and like really started to mobilize within my school, and then ultimately my school district, and then even further the state of Delaware, with like really mobilizing for education equity. And then with all of that advocacy, I was like, okay, like I'm actually tired of being the only Black girl in every space that I'm in. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply to Howard, because at that time, that's when VP Harris was running for vice president. There was a lot of talk around Howard, and I'm like, okay, like seems like Howard's good for something, so let me just apply to it. And that honestly was my mindset. And I was like, I know I wanted to go to the best. Everybody's talking about Howard, and it's in DC. I'm interested in politics. And so I applied to Howard, and I went full throttle in pursuing Howard as like my school with my application, and then, you know, meeting people. And then ultimately I got accepted, and then I got that financial aid package, and I was like, wait, how am I going to go to Howard? But it worked out. Like, I'm a person of faith, and so I really put a lot of faith into being at Howard and going to Howard, and it worked out. Like, I've been able to get through the 4 years or 3.5 years now without having to worry really much about anything. And it's just like a testament to like my God, and just like how like God has like shown up for me throughout this time. So, yeah. It's
been really interesting to hear both of your perspectives, and I think that I too, while I did grow up in a diverse community, I'd had a diverse, what am I trying to say? Diverse high school, my goodness. Like, it's been so long, I don't even know what it's called. But I've always had diversity in my life, but I do think that I even struggle with the like being a suburban Black girl, and also just feeling different or out of place, and embracing my quirky side. So going to school was something that I also felt like I don't know like how I'm gonna do being at that university. And so my question for you both, because you all both highlighted it, how did you all find identity in college? Because I know that that's something that people often struggle with.
For me, it was definitely like as a result of my community. Howard, because I struggled in the beginning because I was so used to just being known as the Black girl, and then eventually the loud Black girl. That was always challenging anyone and everyone. But then when you get to Howard, everyone's Black. Everyone started the Black Student Union. Everyone was class president. Everyone was valedictorian. And so you really have to like dig a lot deeper, because in high school it was like that was it, like it was enough. But at Howard, like that's not enough. Like you have to dig a lot deeper. And so I've like hit a brick wall, and it felt like an identity crisis. I'm like, okay, like who am I? But then my freshman year, I joined this organization called Ladies of Quad Social Club, and it was like a sisterhood based organization with like mentorship. And I like saw so many dope women at Howard that were just doing so many different things, and just seeing how they embraced their individuality and their authenticity, and like how they poured into me as a young woman. And I was like, okay, like let me think about this some more. So I think that was like the first like step in me like finding my identity. And then over time, you just see your community grow and become more of a representation of the person that you were supposed to be. So yeah, but it started with that.
I think for me, and listening to you talk, I never really realized how like we kind of have like almost the same story.
Yeah.
Like I experienced the same thing in high school, and I didn't really touch on it just because I love my high school. You know, Trinity Parlin, y'all raised me. Miss Kill, if you see this, I love you, Kill family. Y'all raised me, but you know, you have your challenges when being in a predominantly white school, especially at that age. I feel like, and during that time, you know, kids joke around a lot, but they don't really realize the magnitude of their jokes and what they're saying. Like sticks and stones, of course, but you know, words stick in your head. They don't hurt you, but they stay around. So, but same thing. Like me and my friend, that same friend Marquise, we created a whole new curriculum for the school and educating people with like Black history and Black culture. Cause I had my personal issue with my high school. They used to make me take my earrings out and take my do-rag off. But when I asked why, they would call my do-rag a hat. And I'm like, my do-rag's not a hat. You know, I'm using it so my hair, you know, stay. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but it's like, instead of just telling me to take it off, how about you ask me, like, why are you wearing this? If you see me with it every day after you tell me to take it off, you should probably ask, you know, rather than just attack. And that was kind of our whole goal, was that, like, yeah, there's obviously like some type of ignorance to it, and it's not purposeful. You know, it's not who you see every day, but that was our whole goal. But to my point, once you get to Howard, everybody has done what I've done. Everybody has done what Taraya done. You're just in a room full of 4.0s, for valedictorians. You know, some people don't have 4.0. I didn't have a 4.0, but like, there's a reason you're at Howard, and everybody has that reason. So it was kind of tough for me, especially being there. And I wouldn't say I didn't feel like I belonged, but it was more so the person that introduced it to me wasn't there. And then I already left my friends in middle school. Now I'm leaving them again. Yeah. It was just like, it was a real tough time, but I met my friends. I love my friends. I thank God for them every day. I love my friend group, but I met them and they went on to join an organization called Gentlemen with Youth Social Club their freshman year. I wasn't able to join it. And I was asked earlier if that's my biggest regret. I wouldn't say that's my biggest regret, but it kind of pushed me to really figure out, all right, you got to make a name for yourself. You have to do something. And that's the one thing I love about Howard University. It makes you kind of like dust your shoulders off and figure it out, because this person sitting next to you is doing something, and then she's doing something. He got an event tonight. He's about to run for something. And it's like, what are you doing? But that also ties into, you know, imposter syndrome. And it's a lot, you know, with great power, great responsibility. It's kind of the same thing. But that's how I got into, like, just advocating for myself, doing better for myself, putting myself in situations and positions that I feel like I deserve to be in.
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate how transparent you all were about your backstory and how you wound up at Howard. And I'm really sorry, genuinely, that you all both had to experience so much racism. I think that there's so much that we face on the day-to-day, and especially to be so young, and you're constantly finding yourself, but you're also fighting for yourself as well. And so I'm really glad that you all are in spaces where you can be yourself authentically and grow and prosper with people who are like-minded individuals and who look similarly to you. But something that you mentioned was imposter syndrome, because even at my university, I struggled with that bad. I mean, being in the journalism field, I mean, it's a white-dominated field. And also just feeling like I belong. If I mess up, or if I feel like other people or other peers are ahead of me, then I'm not as good as them. So you all talked about, to the left and to the right of you, everyone is at the top of their class. So how did you all overcome imposter syndrome, or how are you overcoming imposter syndrome?
For me, I think my experience is a little different, just because I feel like I got it a little earlier with being in high school. A lot of people sometimes face it when, like, in the real world or in college, and it's like that's at a point where it's kind of hard to, like, just navigate life while feeling like you don't belong in there because you're almost an adult essentially. But for me, it was just kind of like, I'm here, you know? Like, I used to come home every day. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I used to, like, when I go home on the weekends, I used to go home every weekend. Like, I really didn't want to be there. But once I got to a point where it was like, it's my third year, like, I'm obviously not leaving. I got to figure out how to exist here. And that's why I say my high school raised me, because I still love them for the positions they put me in. And again, like, my education, I wouldn't say I'm any smarter than anybody, but, like, the classes I took there, like, once I took a step back from the people there and I started looking at my opportunities there, that's when, you know, I wouldn't say I got over the imposter syndrome, but I kind of learned how to deal with it, like, just kind of excel in what I do. And then you really can't tell me anything. And that's kind of, like, I found that there, you know?
Yeah, that's real. I really resonate with what Trav was saying about, like, freshman year and just, like, figuring out, all right, like, what is my impact going to be at Howard? I think every Howard student's kind of, like, ask themselves that question in some way, shape, or form. And for me, my freshman year, the first thing I did when I got to campus was run for a position. Like, that was just typical Taraya fashion. Like, you just can't just be a student. And so I was like, all right, let me run for freshman council president. And so I did. And immediately, like, I was running against 7 other people that were going for president. And then I couldn't pull I'm the only black girl card, because we all were black. And so it was like 7 other people. And then I eventually made it to a runoff, and then I lost. And I was like, dang, like, high school was my peak. Like, I was going through it. Like, I was so sad about that. But obviously I had to get back up. And I think Howard, like Trav said, teaches you how to get back up and like dust your shoulders off and figure it out from there. And so then that's when I joined LOQ, and then I started to like get involved in student government in other ways. And then now I'm like still leading in student government and even in an even larger capacity. But yeah, like Howard really taught me how to just dust it off and get back up, because after that loss, I was like, dang, like I don't know if I really belong here. Like I might just go to the PWI and start fighting the same fight that I was fighting in high school. Like it's easier. It felt easier, but that challenge like really stretched me in like really beautiful ways and taught me, like Trav said, how to get back up and like figure it out. Like it was very important. And it was a canon event, but a very important canon event.
And like that, like what you just said, like it's easier. Like that's one of the reasons why I love Howard, because like yes, it's easier to leave, but it feel better when you do it where it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it's just you just have a different kind of like feeling to you.
Yeah.
It's like when you really work for something and it pays off, like it just feel better. So it may be easy to give up, but just imagine how it would feel if you didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
And I feel like that's why we have so much pride in like our community.
Literally, yeah.
And you see so much pride in the alumni base, because we understand what it means to like go through Howard. And it doesn't even just apply to Howard, but like even the HBCU experience in general. And then I think even wider for people all across like the college experience, just like knowing what it takes to like get that degree and like earn that degree. And so yeah.
And I want to say that real quick, like being involved in like holding positions isn't like the top. Graduate, you know, like that's what like, you come to college to graduate. Make sure you do that, you know. What me and Sorority do, that's just our passion. That's what we're good at. That's like we're fortunate to be there. You know, like there's other people that have tried that, and that's not to belittle anybody, but I also want people to understand that like this doesn't make me any better than the next person. Just being in this podcast, I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for inviting me, but I'm no better than you because you're watching, or I'm no better than the next person. You know, we're all trying to graduate the same, get that same degree. So just focus on that.
I think it's really important, and it's a lesson that a lot of people have not mastered yet, and you all are going to continue to master it, right? It's choosing your hard and staying in the hard. And I realized that through undergrad, I realized through my master's program that it is extremely difficult academics wise, but there's also external factors, right? Like you go to school to graduate, that is true. You go to school to jumpstart the rest of your life. However, there are a lot of factors that weigh into having such a pivotal experience. And a lot of that is finding community. And so I'm interested to know what are ways, and you can talk about the like RSOs and the groups that you are affiliated with, but what are other ways that you all found community, specifically when you first started out at Howard?
That's a great question. When you start out, don't expect, you know, I've gotten so fortunate, and that's why I say I thank God every day for the people around me, but don't expect to stay with the same 15, 20 people you meet your first time on campus. Like, you also realize that people are raised differently, people live differently, people think differently, they make different choices, they don't really understand, you know, sometimes like backhanded compliments, you know, some people just don't get it. So things are going to happen. You're going to fall out with people. Relationships going to change. But I think the best thing to do is, like, when you understand yourself and who you are, then you start to realize that these are the people I want around me, the people that resonate with me, not who you're trying to resonate. And I feel like, and I'm not here, I feel like I keep trying to drop, you know, quotes. And I'm
Preaching,
not,
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that. But it's just like, it's just speaking from experience. Like sometimes, you know, like you may see someone that like, you like what they doing or and you try to be like that and do what they do. And yes, fake it till you make it. But sometimes, you know, that's just not you. You have to be yourself. And then do what they're doing, but in your way, in Trayvon's way, in Taraya's way, Taylor's way. Like, just be you, focus on yourself. Enviness is a thief of joy. So, you know, keep people around you that you want to better.
Yeah. And I want to let you answer in a second, but I want to respond to that. I think understanding that you do outgrow people is really important, because who I started out with, there's a core group that I still have for sure, but I think you think that people are going to be in your life and that close in proximity to your life forever. And I think college really exposes you to the fact that like, I actually can outgrow people or, people have different interests and we cool, but we just, you know, we are like doing different things. And so I think that's a really important thing. Can you talk a little bit about what made you or encouraged you to join a fraternity? Because that's another really great way That's another really great way to
Yeah.
find community and find lasting community as well.
Yeah. I mean, of course, I give you the little politician answer. You know, the principles, manhood, scholarship, perseverance, uplift. You know, our motto: friendship is essential to the soul. Just seeing the way they operate on campus, the way they operate as people, even outside of campus, like they really mean that. Like Omega Men really like keep it dear to their heart. Like friendship is really like essential. Oh my God. Friendship is really everything. And just seeing that, and like if you really look at it, like Omega's everywhere. Like literally everywhere. Like people you watch, you might not even know Stephen A, Shaquille O'Neal, like Michael Jordan, just to name 3 big names. Like, and that's not to say other fraternities don't have anything. You know, MLK is an alpha, but that's just because the time he was around, he didn't have a choice.
The shade.
But no, for real, like it's just like just seeing the way they carry themselves and what they did is like something I want to be around. Like that's just who I want to be. I want to embody that. But not the real answer. My friends, 3 of my friends who actually ended up being my line brothers as well, they influenced me because it's in their family, their generation. I forget the name. Legacy. Their legacy. And so they exposed me to that. But just seeing them on campus hopping around, wearing their boots, barking, just being loud, just like it's just like it's just I don't know, it just caught my attention. And I love it. I love Omega, man.
Yeah. For me, community, like I always say, community literally saves my life, present tense. Community has just been very essential to me, and thinking about like the ways in which I've curated community has just been in so many different ways. Like for example, coming into Howard, one of my best friends, Jameer, we both from Wilmington, Delaware, both 2 little kids from the hood, and it's easy to stick out in Delaware because we're such a small state. And so we're both very ambitious, very involved in, our community. And so we both kind of connected on wanting to go to Howard. And so we were like, okay, we're going to do everything together. So we literally submitted our application together, submitted our deposit together, was waiting to receive our acceptance together, everything. And then from there, we literally just stuck together throughout college and have had very similar trajectories. And so that was kind of like my start to like really like doing life with someone in college. And then from there, I just started to like embrace just being open to people and knowing someone's name. I think it really started with that, like just being personable and making an effort to like get to know people and their stories and like doing life with them. Something that I've learned that is very important in college is also showing up for people. Like there's always a milestone to be celebrated, whether someone just joined an organization, just won an election, whatever, even smaller scale, just, pass their exam. Like there's so many ways to show up for people, and I found that to be very essential for me in cultivating the community that I've cultivated. But then just also embracing like the different spaces that I'm a part of and like really delving into it. So I'm a Christian, and so I host Bible studies at my houses, and so that's been a beautiful way for me to create Christian community. Or for people that are into fashion, like there's a plethora of model organizations that I'm sure Trav can speak on as well. But there's just so many ways to like build community in so many different niche areas as well. So I was like kind of leaning into all of my interest areas and finding ways to like really get to know people in each of those areas. And then also in ways that I like didn't even realize I was. Like I was always seeking to understand people that were ahead of me and doing things that I could have seen myself doing, and like building mentors. And that was something that was just also very essential piece of like the community that I curated at Howard. But really just putting yourself out there, taking initiative to get to know people and understand people and their stories, and not in an opportunistic way like, oh, what can I get from you, but like, what can I really learn from you and your experience? And from there you find lifelong friends and people to do life with.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you were fortunate enough to have someone that was from your same hometown and was able to go to the same college as you. I can only imagine though, because I stayed in state and it was very easy for me to go back home, but I still experienced a lot of loneliness despite having a large community. And I'm interested to know, what are ways that did you struggle with loneliness? And if you did, what are some things that really helped you in those seasons?
Yes, I always said in the beginning, like, I just wasn't finding my people. Like, I even contemplated leaving, not only because I lost the election, but in addition to that, I just felt like I wasn't really finding my people. Like, I had Jameer, and then eventually I had, like, the sisters within my sisterhood organization, but I still was like, oh, like, I still need to find my, like, core, more people in addition to the community that I had. And so I started to, like, really lean into the things that I cared about. And so for me, it became my faith and, like, really embracing, like, my Christian identity. And so going to different Bible studies that were happening on campus, or really going to the church fellowship opportunities. And then from there, I was, like, meeting so many different people. And then I was able to, like, invite them into my space and host events at my home or in my dorm. And then also just, like, really being personable with the people that you interact with on a daily, because you never know where that can take you, or even where those interactions can take you as well. It may not be your lifelong friends, but, like, being open. And I think that's what ended up helping me in the end, was just being open to whatever interaction and wherever those interactions could take me, instead of just being like, oh, like, this is just another person that I'm seeing on the yard, but, like, oh, like, let's go for coffee. Like, I'm good for let's go for coffee. And so, like, being open to those type of interactions, or kicking it in the library, or just randomly walking up to Tribe and his friend group and seeing, what they're talking about. And that's just really beautiful ways to, like, go deeper with the people that you're constantly around.
And I do want to go into kind of how you all balance it, because y'all are, like, stacked when it comes to leadership. But I want to ask one more question. Can you just talk a little bit about how your fraternity, or just because you're the NPHC president, so how that has ultimately shaped your experience? Because that's such a unique experience that not everyone, I don't want to say afforded or, like, privileged, but, like, it's a special, unique experience that not everyone will have in their college experience. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So yes, I'm the president of the National Panhellenic Council at Howard University. I'm also the keeper of finance, which is a treasurer position for Omega Sapphire. I'm a part of Elite Models, Class 9. I'm a model. I've been a part of UGSA, which is our student body government, basically. And I was also a part of Senate my sophomore year. So I feel like I've done the whole nine when it comes to organizations and clubs, and I'm part of chess club as well.
Checkmate, okay.
Yeah, I'm part of chess club as well. But was the question managing? How do I manage it all?
Well, no, not yet. But I was asking how being in a fraternity has, like, changed
shaped you.
Shaped your experience.
Yes. Well, okay. The fraternity itself, I can speak on that. That kind of, I feel like, okay, a lot of people, when they're interested in joining, they kind of focus on, like, I want to be like a man, like the same way I said, like, the Omega man, like, I want to be like them. Like, I think a lot of people think that, like, joining it is what makes you that person. And I just take a step back, that, like, you have to be that person for you to join the organization. Like, that person that you want to be, or whoever you're looking at that you embody, that has to be in you. This just enhances it. It just puts you in situations where you can either grow or you just don't. Like, it doesn't hurt you in any way, but it just kind of builds you up. And I say that to say, just from being, like, it's like a business kind of. You run a business. Everything is like, you need to have this done, because if you want it to be ran properly, this has to be done. But people don't really see that. People don't see the paperwork side. People don't see the meetings that we hold, and chapter meetings, and having to do this and do that. And people always wonder why, like, we're around, and, like, why we call ourselves the people's champ. And that's because, like, that's what we pride ourselves on, like, just being the best, But that's just Omega. Like, I can't really speak for anything else. That's just Omega. But so Omega has made me, like, just a more productive, more prepared, more, like, resilient. Like, there's nothing you can't tell me I can't do. Like, I'll do it right now. If you tell me I can't do a backflip, I will.
Do 100 push-ups. No, I'm just kidding.
But it like Omega has taught me that there's nothing that I cannot do, or that I won't do, or that I don't know how to do. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out. But just from my other positions, I can speak for Elite, being a model, that taught me my confidence, and, like, really having inner beauty, and like, going through a time where it's like, I feel like college is a time where it's like, you really either love yourself or you learn to love yourself. And I think like at that stage and then like having a model, it's kind of hard to do that because modeling is really just like you're trying to make people believe. Like, you know, you can't say nothing. So you on the stage and you feel like you look good, but people watching you like, what is she doing? Like, what are you doing? And like you can tell it on people's faces. So it's real taxing on the brain, you know? It's real hard to like just feel confident, understand that like even if you don't believe it, I believe it. So like you're gonna believe it because I believe it. And so it taught me that. It taught me to be able to just walk in a room and like they used to say to girls, feel like you're that, you know? And in a sense, I feel like I'm that in the other way, you know? When I walk around, just because I have that confidence. So like I've looked at myself in the mirror long enough. I understand myself. I looked at what I don't like about myself, my defects kind of, and I've accepted it. I loved it. I learned it. I can't change about it. I have pointy ears. So does my grandmother. And she's a beautiful woman. So that makes me beautiful, you know? And you just kind of got to just love yourself. And that's what modeling has taught me. But yeah, I wouldn't say my fraternity shaped me in any way. I love it. It just made me a better person. It just enhanced all the qualities that I already had in me. And it just brought them out. It made y'all be able to see it. It made them be able to see it. And it just brings it out of me, you know?
Yeah, I can totally relate to that because being a part of Delta Sigma Theta, I think that it added to my life, but it wasn't my life. So I totally understand with that. But what I've gathered from both things you all are affiliated, student body, government, you have a Bible study, you know, just being in NPHC, stuff. Everything is shaping and cultivating who you are. And it's essentially making you more confident by partaking in things that you're excited about, that you're interested about, and that has that foundational impact into you all's lives. We've talked a lot about community. We've talked about identity a lot, but we have to talk about the academics because that's why you go to college. But I'd love to know, I mean, we don't have to talk about like, what's your worst grade, but I want to talk a little bit about how do you balance extracurriculars or a social life with academics because that is a struggle.
It is. It is. If I can answer
you got
first.
it.
So the MPHC today, actually, we had an event with Alpha Kappa Alpha, and it was called Our Deepest Fear. So basically what it was, you write down a fear and you cover it with a post-it note of like words of encouragement. And what I wrote down was that all that I've done will be for nothing when I graduate. And I say that because that's my biggest fear, that all this experience and this journey that I've been on and all the friends I made, all this, like, once I graduate, I do nothing with it. Because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where I want my life to go. Like, I haven't figured that out yet. So sometimes I feel like, and I'm a senior, I'm graduating, God willing. So sometimes I feel like, you know, I'm just like going through the motions. Cause it's like, I don't necessarily have a goal right now, like, of where I'm going. Like, I don't know. But I do believe, and so what I covered it with was James 2:17, that's faith without works is dead. I think that like always keep faith, but if you're not holding up your end of the deal, then it's like, I'm not gonna say God can't help you, but if you ever seen that picture, extending the hand and you know he's right there, but you gotta go get you gotta go get it. So if you're not working, how can you expect things to happen? So I mean, and to answer the question about balancing, I've actually gotten this on an interview, and I think this is why I didn't get the job because of my answer. But I said. It's going to sound bad, but just let me finish. I said I don't time manage because that's just something I've never been good at. Being able to sit down and plan stuff out. Like even in middle school, I threw away the planner they gave me. They gave me a planner, I threw it away. I just never liked it. I never liked scheduling things out, but I'm a good prioritizer. I know what I need to get done, and I just get it done. And that's just me being real with myself. Yeah. And that's why I said I probably didn't get the job because of that, but that's just me being honest. Like, I know... For example, we have this podcast. I had to be here at 5 o'clock. I'm going to be here at 5 o'clock. You know, like, let's say there's a party going on. I'm not going because I have a podcast. So it's not necessarily like I have to put it on my calendar. But, of course, I note things down and write it down. But I've never been one to just, like, plan out a week in advance because you never know what can happen. Things can change, but you have to have a priority list of this needs to get done. So I'm going to get this done before anything else. And I think that just also comes with, like, having a drive and trusting yourself and knowing that you can get it done. So I think that also goes back to just believing in yourself, that you can do it all.
Yeah. No, honestly, that was it. For me, I was like, it's kind of funny because I was thinking about like comparing and contrasting myself in high school and then myself now. Like in high school, I was like the annoying girl that like cried if I got a B on a test and everybody else failed. Like it was weird and it was annoying, but like that was me. I was like salutatorian in high school, so then I got to college and I was like, all right, like we gotta keep the momentum going. But then I also like was burnt out because I'm like, dang, I did all that. I wanted to be valedictorian, but then obviously I got salutatorian so bad, and then I got it and it was like, like this doesn't really mean anything to me at all. And so my perspective changed a lot coming into college. Not that I didn't care or value my grades, I did, but like I wasn't about to have an anxiety attack if I got a B on an exam. Like I didn't value that as much as I did before. But I learned that I still like value my grades. It just like was a very different perspective than I had in high school. But for me, I learned to like also like prioritize, but I'm also like a scatterbrain and I have so much going on. So if I don't write it down or if it's not in my calendar, like it doesn't exist and it won't get done. And so like for me, a method that works for me is using my calendar and like putting literally my entire day second by second into my calendar, because if I don't, literally like it won't get done. And I have a list for everything, like list from like my morning, list from my mid-afternoon, late afternoon, evening. Like I have a to-do list for everything, partly because I get a kick out of like checking everything off. But I have a list for everything. And then also my calendar, like those both are my saving grace to stay organized, because I just am so scatterbrained. And honestly, like if it's not written down anywhere, like it's not happening at all. And then also like Trav said, like learning how to prioritize. And to really manage, like, okay, the things that you have responsibility to and the things that you need to, like, put on the back burner. But then also recognizing when it's time to take a step back. Because, like I mentioned, like, I had reached a point of burnout. And even in undergrad, like, I was doing everything. Like, I was president of an org, and then I was also vice president of, like, my council. It was just a lot going on. And I was like, okay, like, this is a lot. Like, we need to learn how to take a step back, because mental health, you know, this is another hot topic in college. But it's a real one. Like, it's a real experience. And so for me, like, my mental health really started to take a toll because of everything that I had going on. And it started to get harder and harder and harder for me to manage those things, and then also my grades. And then I was just experiencing a lot of things emotionally at that time as well. And so I had to also learn how to, like, step back from a few things that I was a part of and be like, hey, I really value this organization, but I can't give what I need to give to this space. So I'm going to have to take a step back for the sake of my mental health, but also for the sake of the efficiency of this organization. So to anyone listening, I think it's also very important to know when it's time to take a step back, but then also recognizing when it's time to say no, when it's time to say no to that party, when it's time to say no to that date, whatever it is, like knowing when it's time to say no. Because something I really love about Howard is that sense of duality. Like, we're going to be at Thirsty Thursday, but then we're going to be up for our 8 a.m. on Friday morning. So it's like finding that balance and knowing when it's time to, like, stop and, like, focus on the things that you really are here to do. Because like Travis said earlier, we're students first. Like, yes, I'm student body vice president, but I'm student first. And so recognizing when it's also time to, like, put a pause on everything else I have going on. Because like Travis said, like, it would be a disservice to ourselves and also to the people looking up to us if all that we do here in undergrad is for vain. Like, it's like, all right, well, that was quite the peak. Like, so
I don't know if something's wrong with me, but like I've tried to use a calendar. Like, I really have. It's just, I don't know. I kind of get a kick in, like, just getting it done. Like, just like knowing I gotta be here by 2. It's 1:55, but I'm about to walk through the yard. Like, I'm gonna say hi to people, but I promise you I'll get there by 2. Like even like even when we was waiting on the Uber, I told Tarai I had 10 minutes. I said, Tarai, I will be right back.
It was on time.
I got back.
Period. And I think you have to find what works for you, right? I think I'm the blend of both of you. I can prioritize, but I'm also gonna put like a skeleton schedule. I don't know exactly when everything's gonna get done, but it's gonna get done, and I prioritize it and the time. We're almost coming to an end, but I have a few more questions for you. If you could give a college student or an incoming college student put them on free game, especially when it comes to academics, what would be your tip?
Do it scared. That would be like my phrase. Like, do it scared. Do everything scared. Like, I was reflecting. I'm like such a reflective, mushy person. And so I've been like just reflecting on like, dang, like I'm a senior. And I was thinking about like something that I would do differently. And it would be to redo it, but do it scared. Like, I think while I've accomplished a lot at Howard, there's a lot that I just like didn't do and took advantage of because I was too afraid to do it or too afraid to try it. Like, for example, something I was thinking about recently is how much I really enjoy like the media space. But I was so caught up in like this political space because it was comfortable for me. I was doing all of it in high school. So I'm like, okay, let me stay on this political science track, that I was so afraid to switch my major because it just didn't feel like it made sense for me. But that passion for media and that passion for journalism hasn't gone away. So now it's just time wasted because I was too afraid to face the things that I was afraid of. And I was talking to my aunt recently about it, and I was like, dang, like, your passion sometimes is under the things that you're afraid to do. And now I just have this like new fire in me to chase everything that I'm afraid to chase. And so do it scared, like, because there's so much that is under those fears, and there's so much growth that is under those fears, and you may neglect or remove yourself from the opportunity to meet who you were always supposed to be because you were too afraid to try, that you were too afraid to do it. And so yeah, do it scared and face your fears.
Yeah. I want to reiterate everything Tara just said. I'm gonna say more just so I can say more. Don't take it at 8 a.m. Please don't do 8 a.m. It may sound cool, you might be doing it in high school, but it's different when you get on campus. 8 a.m. is like 6 a.m. on campus. Please don't do it. But yeah, do everything scared, man. Like, people will tell you, and like looking back, like I'm only 21. But like looking back, people always say you're young. Like, just do it. And like they say that for a reason, because Tari's example, time goes by so fast. You'll look back, and if I would have just did it 3 years ago, who knows where I'd be at.
Right.
But now we're 3 years gone, and I still haven't done it. So just do it. Like, literally, Nike. Like, just do it. Like, literally, just do it. Who cares? If you fail, you fail. So like, nobody cares in this world. Like, it doesn't matter anymore. Like the way I look at it now, and just having all these positions and all the things I've done, like, people don't know unless I tell them. Nobody really cares. I'm just Trayvon. Like, they look at me outside of how, once I leave campus, nobody knows I'm part of Omega Psi Phi if I don't have the shirt on. Nobody knows I'm the president of this. Nobody knows I done this. Nobody cares. Like, it really doesn't care. So just do what you want to do. At the end of the day, it's your own life. Live your life the way you want it to be. And you only get one. So do it all.
And can I say one more thing? Don't be afraid to be seen trying.
Man, what?
Don't be afraid to be seen trying. Like, I think so many people are so afraid of like the beginner stage of things, or like to be learning. But like,
that's the fun part.
Right, that's the fun part. Like,
it really is.
So don't be afraid to be seen trying and like doing things, because the people that I admire are the ones that are pivoting. Like, I have a friend, she was pre-med her entire time at Howard, and now she's pursuing journalism full throttle and like not afraid to do it. Or I have a friend that dropped out of school to pursue fashion, and she's doing great things. And so it's like, I really admire that level of like boldness to just radically go after your dreams. And so don't be afraid to be seen trying, and be a kind person. Like, be kind to everyone.
I was just about to say that. Like, when you trying is when you can mess up. Like, those when the mistakes are okay. People are gonna be willing to help. But, and also, you never know how far like just a little conversation can go. Like, talk to everybody. It doesn't have to be a full conversation, but just ask someone how they're doing. You never know who you're talking to. You never know where that can lead to. Like, you never know the connections you can make. Like, a hello, smile goes so far. Trust me. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's one thing my grandmother told me as a kid. Just treat people you want to be treated. So always do that. You want people to say hi to you, smile, say hi back. Just say it first.
I totally agree with you all. My last question. So the question that no senior wants to be asked is, what's next for you? So I'm not going to ask
Please
that.
don't.
I'm not going to ask that.
Because I don't know.
I don't know.
But what I am going to ask you both is, what are you most excited about post-grad?
Excited about, I think, just having all my time to myself. And I think that is when I can figure it out where I want my life to go, because I don't have to worry about class or a meeting or scheduling this, running this event, doing this. It's just me and my life. And wherever I want that to go, I have 24 hours and 365 times to figure it out. So, but I'm also excited about my brand. You know? I got a little shirt, a little nice shirt. Name Infinite. It's my middle name. I get it from my grandmother. I always talk about my grandmother. She right here on my arm. Marie right here. Love her. But yeah, if y'all like my shirt, it's a nice little.
I love it.
It's a nice little shirt. But Yeah, I don't really know. I think just having my time, being able to like actually like just figure life out and like take time away from school. That's all I've known for what 15 years of my life. Like take time away from that and figure out where does Trayvon want to be in 5 years. Like I said before, I never really thought 5 years ahead. Like I never thought about it. So figure it out.
Yeah, make sure y'all go support Infinite. For me, I'm really just excited for how God is going to blow my mind. Because I honestly, it's scary, very scary, because I don't have like a concrete plan of what's next. Like I have no idea, if I'm being completely frank. But it's like I'm excited for how God is gonna blow my mind because He did it already. Like I would have never imagined like the space that I've been in, like what put things into perspective for me, because I was honestly getting like really sad about not knowing what I was gonna do. But I was like thinking, I was actually talking to my aunt about it. It's my best friend, I love her. And I was like, girl, I'm sad. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do. She's like, you were just interning in the White House or Vice President of the United States. Tell me like 4 years ago that you were going to do that. And I couldn't have. And so it's like seeing how God has showed up for me already. It's like, why would He stop now? Like, it just doesn't even feel like the right thing to even think about. So it's like, I'm just very excited to see how God is going to blow my mind and like to even give me things that I could have never even dreamed of because He already has. And so it's like, it's very comforting, like resting in that because like He already did it. So like, why would He stop?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine.
I should have said this earlier, but it's the last thing I'm going to say. But earlier today, I was sitting down outside, and like somebody asked me if I was okay, and I was like, yeah. And then he came back like 5 minutes later. I was still sitting there. They was like, you sure? And I'm like, yeah. Like I'm just being where my feet are. And I tell people that all the time. Like, don't worry so much about the past. Can't change it. Don't worry so much about the future. You know, like I feel like what's meant for you is gonna happen. But just be where your feet are. Like, just sometimes you need to take a second, think about where you came from and how and where you're at right now. Yeah. And just acknowledge all of what you experienced on that journey. And then you'll start to appreciate where you are sometimes. You know, sometimes you can get caught up on where you're going to go, where you want to be at, where you feel like you should be at in this moment. But sometimes just look around where you're at right now. And you'll be okay, I promise you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are really good. And I have a few parting words for both of you all before we wrap up this episode, because there's a few things that you all said that I know I have to circle back and address this. The thing you said was you feel like once you graduate, your fear is that nothing will matter or the things that you've accomplished won't matter. Here's what I'll say to you, because I had a very similar experience. When I graduated from my master's program, 6 months, I had no idea what I was going to do. People were getting jobs left and right in media. And I was still like finding my life out. I was door dashing. I was doing all types of stuff. And when I moved to DC, I was like, okay, I'm not the president of my chapter anymore. I'm not the president of this RSO anymore. Like, does it matter? I think all that will shape who you become. Yeah. And those experiences, those lessons, those leadership experiences, there's things that I take from being the president all the time. So maybe, when people see you, they're not going to see the NPHC president. What they will see is someone who knows how to command a room. They will see someone who knows how to be themselves. So that's my parting words for you.
Thank you.
And for you, you talked about how you focus so much on one specific area of your life, and now you kind of regret, like, oh, maybe media or journalism, that's something I want to tap into. You're in your 20s. You can always pivot. You can always tie it in to what you're doing. You can start a podcast. You can make content. Like, you're not pigeonholed just because you didn't do it right now or in the way you think you were supposed to do it. Yeah. I thought I was supposed to be a news anchor. I hated it. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with this degree? Because that's all I wanted to do. And I realized, like, oh, I can do it just in a different way. So you never know. And what you're supposed to do is what you did. And so you can always do it later. You're always becoming, both of you. And I'm still becoming. You know, I'm going to be, by the time this episode airs, I probably will be 27. And there's times where I have to remind myself, like, just because I didn't do it now doesn't mean I can't do it. And all the experiences that I had are putting me in the position to be where I am today. Yeah. So those are my parting words for you both. Thank you I'm really excited for you all. I'm really proud of you all. It's been amazing just to hear you all's experience and how you all overcome everything. And I think that this is going to be such a very like pivotal episode because people really can see the raw, authentic versions of yourselves. Thank you everyone for listening in. If you can please like, share, and subscribe, we would greatly appreciate it. And as always, we are uncovering who we are one chapter at a time, and we are unfolding at our own pace, and we are exactly where we need to be. Take care, everyone.